So we will start from the 6th shloka of the second canto. So the first canto ended when Sukadeva Goswami came into the scene, and then he was asking for the questions of what is the best thing to be done for best thing to do for everyone, and especially for a person who is about to die. So that's the answer is coming now. So just before in the 5th shloka we had seen that Shrotavyam Kirtitavyascha. So like one has to hear about and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is a very, very important thing that needs to be performed for everyone, and especially for a person who is about to die. Right? Here we see the 6th shloka. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Janma Labha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. So this is a very famous, this one, Ante Narayana Smritihi. So at the end of life, one must remember the Lord. That's a very, very important thing. Okay. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic power, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of God at the end of the life. So this is, it's not just different things that is mentioned randomly. It is the highest perfection of life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit. So that means this is Jnana Yoga, right? And then by the practice of mystic powers, so that is Ashtanga Yoga. And by practice of discharge of occupational duties, that is Karma Yoga. So whatever may be the path you may take, the ultimate goal or ultimate thing that needs to be reached is what? The remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the ultimate end. So if this end is not reached, then there is no point in doing all that tapasya, right? So let's see the purport. Narayana is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of Mahatattva, material principle, and is known as the material world. So here it's mentioned, the Narayana para avyakta. So all the many times Srila Prabhupada used to quote this statement. So this is a statement by Shankaracharya, and he says that Narayana para avyakta. So that means he is beyond this material creation. Narayana is beyond the material creation, and everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass, or is within the Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the sum total of material energy, and everything that is created, sustained, and annihilated. So creation, maintenance, and destruction means immediately that is a part of material world, right? So that is why we see that even the aspects of what is that? The devatas. There are 33 crore devatas are there. All of them, they are created. And in every manvantara, the whole lot of the devatas, they change their positions, and it's not a permanent position. So they are also material, right? So spiritual means Narayana, who's para avyaktat. So he's beyond the material nature. And Mahatattva is sum total of all the material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses, 5 different kinds of sense objects, and then mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these things put together, the totality of it is called Mahatattva. The existence of Narayana, or personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahatattva, and as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayana are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of emphoric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach to any planet of the universe or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smriti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. So again, as we saw in the translation, either you do Jnana Yoga, or you do Dhyana Yoga, or you do like Karma Yoga, whatever may be the path you may take, the judgment is based on how much of Narayana Smriti, how much of constant remembrance of the Lord is there. So that's the ultimate way of judging the whole progress a person has actually made. So here we see In case if we take the profession, somebody may take engineering, somebody may take medical, somebody may take different professions. So but how successful you are in a particular profession, okay, ultimately how much property you made, how much money you earned, and things like that, right? So it's something of that sort we can just compare. So whatever may be the path you take, now how much of Narayana Smriti that you have got, right? So that's the ultimate, this one, ultimate judgment point, or the scale with which we can actually measure various paths of spiritual progress. Okay, this is possible only by an association of a pure devotee who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. So jnanis means dhyana yogis, or karma yogis, like whoever may be the case. So the final touch has to be given by a devotee of the Lord, a pure devotee of the Lord, because it is a matter of Narayana Smriti, and that can only be given by a pure devotee of the Lord, right? So there are many historical instances of achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of the Sanakadi rishis, or the 9 celebrated yogendras who attain perfection only after being situated in devotional service of the Lord. So in this way, the Sanakadi rishis, or the 4 Kumaras, who are the sons of Lord Brahma, they were in the platform of jnana. They were completely perfected the platform of jnana. But then no, that means perfecting the platform of jnana means there is no attraction to anything material. So they were completely purified souls, but then no, they were not devotees of the Lord, right? So then kind of they had one time they had come, they had kind of smelt the fragrance of the tulsi leaves offered at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and then no, they got attracted, and they were thinking that, no, how can we get attracted to anything at all? No, what is this aroma? No, aroma means what? It is it is one of the it's a property of earth. No, it's one of the 5 panchamahabhutas, and a jnani will never get attracted to anything material. And these 4 Kumaras are bewildered, like, no, how are we getting attracted to something at all? So then they go trace it back, and then they find the Supreme Lord, and they surrender unto him, and then they perfectly knew that they will not be attracted by anything material. And when they saw the form of the Lord, they could immediately understand this is something beyond the material creation, and this is the Supreme Lord. And jnanis, they are considered to be like an example that is given today morning's session. Also, we were discussing that they are like dry wood, and bhakti they can catch bhakti like just like fire. A dry wood catches fire. So a jnani can, like take up bhakti in that fashion, because they're completely purified of all material contamination, and a little exposure to devotional service, they are just on. So that's what happened to the Shanakadi rishis. Before that, before they became devotees of the Lord, they were jnana yogis, right? And then none of the devotees of the Lord ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to the other methods as adopted by jnanis or yogis. So there is no history of any devotees becoming jnanis or yogis. On the contrary, it is mentioned, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janathyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So that means, by performing, like Vasudeve Bhagavati, like to the Supreme Lord Vasudev, or the son of Vasudev, that is Krishna, Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, and Janayathyashu Vairagyam, Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So one who performs bhakti to the Supreme Lord, automatically the jnana, the knowledge aspect, that arises, and then automatically vairagya, so that is the detachment from the material things, also arises. So these 2 things are just a byproduct of the bhakti, and jnana yogis actually work very hard, for that particular thing. So when if the jnana yogis have to work so hard to get something, and that we are getting it as byproduct of bhakti, then who will ever go and take to the path of jnana yoga and ashtanga yoga and things like that? So what they're going to achieve there, it's going to be achieved very easily in the process of bhakti yoga, right? So everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of his particular activity, and it is indicated herein that such perfection is Narayana Smriti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of life. No, very, very amazing statements it is. So we should mold our life in such a way that we should be able to remember the Lord progressively more and more. No, and that is the perfection of life. No, that is mentioned here. Right. Okay. So next, text 7. Prayena manayo rajan nivritta vidhi sedhata nirgunyastha ramante sma gunanu katane harehe. O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. So this we had seen in the first canto of Bhagavatam also about this particular aspect, that Atmaramascha Munaya, Atmaramascha Munaya Nirgrante Api Urukrama Kurvanti Haitukim Bhaktim Vitambhuta Gunoharihi. So even Atmaramas, even the people who are completely purified and they don't have any material attachment, even they get attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord. They get attracted to the like topics of the Lord and things like that. So even Sukadeva Goswami, who's the speaker of this Bhagavatam, no, he was initially a jnani and he was completely detached from everything. And then he left home also. But then Vyasadeva, the father of like Sukadeva Goswami, he was very anxious that he didn't do any the basic samskaras for his son. Vyasadeva is a elevated Brahmana, and then there is so many samskaras are there to be performed for the children of Brahmanas. And he was like very engaged. He just left home and he just left just like that. And Vyasadeva was quite he was so much in anxiety that I have not done the proper rites to my son. So then he sends his disciples, and then he teaches them. Means he asks them to sing the glories of Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva is the original knower of Bhagavatam, and then he taught it to his son, Sukadeva Goswami, and then Sukadeva Goswami is now speaking the Bhagavatam. So the origin is that when Sukadeva Goswami, being a jnani, he was not at all attached to anything. He just left home, and then the disciples of Vyasadeva were sent out. Vyasadeva sent out his disciples, and he asked them to sing the glories or sing the glorious activities of the Lord from Srimad Bhagavatam. And when these disciples, they were singing about Lord Krishna's mercy. So they sang about this particular shloka, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam Jigam Shayadyap Asadvi Lebe Ghatim Dhatri Uchitam Tatonya Kamvadayalam Saranam Rajema. So this is a very amazing shloka which says that Aho Bakiyam. Baki means the sister of Bakasur. So that is Putana. Aho means like it's kind of a an expression that is used to show astonishment. Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam. She had applied the Kalakuta, very, very powerful poison on her breast, and then she wanted to feed Krishna and kill Krishna. Right? So what did Krishna do? Because she came in the mood of giving her breast milk to Krishna, Krishna accepted her as mother. Lebe Gatim Datri. So Datri means an assistant of mother, that is nurse. That's how it is called. So Lebe Gatim Datri. Datri is one of the 7 mothers also that is considered. So the 7 mothers are Atma Mata, Guru Patni, Brahmani, Rajapatnika, Denu, Dhatri, Tata Prithvi, Saptaita Mata Rasmata. So one's own mother, Atma Mata, Guru Patni, then Atma Mata, Guru Patni, Brahmani, wife of a Brahmana, Rajapatni, and then Denu, that is cow, and Dhatri, that is the nurse, and then Tata Prithvi. Prithvi is also considered to be one of the mothers. So these, he gave the position of mother in the spiritual world. He elevated her to the spiritual world. She was a demon. She was not even eligible for liberation. Forget about this one. He crossed even liberation. He gave the position of mother in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is really very amazing. And then He says, Kamva dayalum sharanam vajema. So, who you can find who's more merciful than this personality, so that I can take shelter of one. So, that is the thing that these disciples of Vyasadev, they go about and they're describing various leelas of the Lord, and then somehow they happen to chant this sloka, and Shukadeva Goswami, he heard this and he went completely flat. He was like going mad after hearing this. So it is like the same thing what we were explaining in the case of the four Kumaras. They were not at all attracted to anything in this material world, but then when they heard or when they smelt the tulsi leaves that are offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, they got attracted. And then Sukadeva Goswami, he's also completely detached from the worldly things, but then when he heard about the glories of the Lord, he became he went mad. He was completely attached to that. And then he came to those people and he asked them, like, no, what is it that you are speaking about? No, my mind doesn't get attracted to anything else, but then I am getting attracted to your words. No, what is it all about? No, what are you speaking? So then all the disciples of Vyasadeva, they told, okay, come back home. No, your father will teach you more. So more of it is there in this one. So it's like this is how sometimes people get young people into addictions, right? So they give a little nasha and then they say, okay, fine, if you want more, like, you come and join our gang, right? Something like that. So here they spoke about Bhagavatam a little bit, and Shukadeva Goswami got attracted, and then they brought him home in that way, right? So we can see that here also the translation reads, O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. So Bhagavatam is especially meant for such people who are paramo nirmatsaranam satam, people who doesn't have matsarata, that means envy and all these kind of negative principles. They can actually really take pleasure in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. It's nectar for them. And for us, if we have the kalmashas in the heart, so that can be purified, and we will also be elevated to that position where we can actually relish the taste of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, let's go into the purport. The topmost transcendentalist is a liberated soul and is therefore not within the purview of regulative principles. So regulative principles means the do's and don'ts. We have the four regulative principles, like no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. So these regulative principles are there, and then other positive regulative principles are there, like minimum 16 rounds of chanting, and then reading Bhagavatam, hearing nice devotional lectures and things like that, and then getting up early in the morning, offering arati to the Lord and things like that. So all these regulations is needed for us, because there are two things that are there in regulation. One is that the negative things which we may be attracted to, that is prohibited or that is regulated. And then the positive things that we are not attracted to, a minimum limit is set. Okay, fine, at least minimum you should do this much, right? So minimum you should do 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, and minimum you should keep yourself clean, take bath, maybe 6-7 hours or 8 hours of bath means like you get contaminated, then again you take bath, and then then arati and focusing on the reading of scriptures and hearing of spiritual topics like glories of the Lord. So these kind of things, these are regulations because we are not attracted to it. So when we are not attracted to it, so then a minimum principle is set according to our capacity, according to our our level. So somebody senior to us, somebody who's guiding us, can set this one, saying that okay, fine, you can do this much of devotional service. That will be apt for you, right? So at least that just keeps us on this one, saying that we will not go down below that. At least there is some bar is there, we will try to hit that bar every single day. So that's the way we can actually get into. But then these regulative principles are for a person who has not a developed attachment to the Supreme Lord. So, but the transcendentalist whose heart is free from all lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and things like that, for them there is no need of any regulations, because already they have achieved the success, in their pursuit. So they will be naturally attracted to the Supreme Lord, and they will naturally be doing all that is necessary for the remembrance of the Lord. A neophyte who is, now we will continue the purport, a neophyte who is intended to be promoted to the spiritual plane is guided by the spiritual master under regulative principles. He may be compared to a patient who is treated by various restrictions under medical jurisdiction. Generally, liberated souls also take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities. As mentioned above, since Narayana, Hari, the personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation, his form and attributes are not material. No, that's the reason these people, what is that? These transcendentalists, these jnanis who have developed detachment from this world, if they are getting attracted to something, then definitely it cannot be something material, because they have already won over the attraction to the material things, and still they get attracted to the Supreme Lord. So that means there is something more to it. So he is not the Lord's form, the Lord's name, the Lord's Leela are not part of material creation, or not part of material sound vibration. They are completely spiritual in nature. They are beyond matter. And in fact, Krishna mentions this in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti so Arjuna. So Krishna says that one to understand my name, my form, my activities and things like that, Janma karma chame divyam, so my birth and activities and things like that are not part of material world. It is completely spiritual. He, after quitting this body, is not going to take birth again, and he is going to go to my abode. He is going to go back to Vaikuntha. So that's what Krishna is saying. It's so simple that we should just understand that Krishna's activities and Krishna's name, Krishna's form, it is not material. It is beyond this material creation, right? The topmost transcendentalist or the liberated souls realize him by advanced experience of transcendental knowledge, and therefore they take pleasure in discussions of transcendental qualities of Lord's pastimes, right? So this is what they take pleasure in. In this world, there is so much of news is there, so much of discussions that are going on, and every time the whole world is filled with newses of sense gratification, and people take a lot of pleasure in that. And if not that, there is technological things that are there. So there is so much of discussions about it. All the time we are discussing or doing something in relation to something material, something matter. So when we focus our thoughts on something spiritual, which is centered around the Lord, so then it becomes really very amazing. And liberated souls take pleasure in such things, right? In Bhagavad Gita 4.9, the Lord, the personality of Godhead, declares that his appearance and activities are all divyam and or transcendental. So just now we quoted that sloka, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tatvata. The common man who's under the spell of material energy takes it for granted that the Lord is like one of us, and therefore he refuses to accept the transcendental nature of Lord's form, name, etc. The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matter of Lord's activities is definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. We just discussed about this also, because the Sanakadi Rishis, they are taking interest. Shukadeva Goswami, he is taking interest. Atmaramas chamunaya nirgante api urukrama kurvantya haitukim bhakti ittam bhuta guno harihi. So if they are taking interest in this, definitely it is not material, right? So in the Vedic literature also, it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in his transcendental pastimes in the company of his unalloyed devotees, and that simultaneously he is present as super soul, an expansion of Baladev in the heart of all living entities. So we see that Goloka eva nivashatya akila atma bhuto. So he's the Supreme Lord is residing in his own planet, Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. But then he's also, he's there in Akila Atma Bhuta. He's there in every single living entity as Paramatma. He's sitting there. And he's called as expansion of Baladev. Why? Because Krishna's first expansion is Baladev. And from Baladev comes Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. And from Sankarshana comes the Mahavishnu and Garbhadakshay Vishnu and Shiradakshay Vishnu. And Shiradakshay Vishnu is the super soul who resides in the pole star or Dhruva Nakshatra. And that same Shirodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu means Shira means like the milk, and Udaka means like the water or the ocean, and Shai means one who has taken his bed in the ocean of milk, the milk ocean. So that personality is called Shirodakshay Vishnu, and he is the super soul, and his roots, we can trace it back to Baladev. So that is why it is mentioned here like this. And therefore, the highest perfection of transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and not in merging into his impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonalists, monaists aspire. So there is a class of people called impersonalists, or their goal is to merge in the Brahma Jyoti. Their goal is to get to that Brahma Jyoti and lose their identity. And then the Vaishnavas actually say, "Oh, Kaivalyam Narakayate." No, it is just like hellish planet for us. No, why Kaivalyam Narakayate? Kaivalyam means the merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, because a devotee is experiencing so much of bliss in chanting the names of the Lord, in discussing about the Supreme Lord's topics, that losing one's identity and just becoming a dot in the Brahma Jyoti, he doesn't like that actually. So he wants to cross the Brahma Jyoti and then go into the spiritual planets, and then see the form of the Lord there, and to be engaged in the service of the Lord there. So that is his long cherished desire, right? So he is not settling to Brahman existence. Kaivalyam Narakayate, right? So for a devotee, it looks like hellish existence. Though people may, all the impersonalists, for them that is the topmost goal, but for a devotee, it is just like a hellish experience. Real transcendental pleasure is realized in glorification of the transcendental Lord, and not in feeling of being situated in the impersonal feature. But there are also others who are not the topmost transcendentalists, but are in a lower status, and who do not take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Rather, they discuss such activities of the Lord formally, with the aim of merging into his existence. So, even Mayavadis or even the impersonalists sometimes are seen discussing about the pastimes of the Lord, or they're speaking on Bhagavatam, but their goal is just to go and merge with him. So they don't want to experience the bliss of devotional service that is there. So next sloka. Idam Bhagavatam nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Aditavan Dvaparado Pitur Dvaipayanadaham. Okay. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas, from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. So Shukadeva Goswami is telling that this thing which I'm going to speak now is, your question is very, very valid, very amazing. You have asked for what is the duty of a person who's about to die. And I am speaking about the duty that is the listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, and I have learned it from Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, so my father. And then he is telling this is the summary of all the Vedas. How we can say this is the summary of all the Vedas, or this is the ultimatum of all the Vedas? So we can see that all the Vedic literatures are summarized by Vyasadeva himself in the form of Vedanta Sutra, right? So in the form of Vedanta Sutra, and Vedanta Sutra starts with Janmadhyasya, and then Bhagavatam also starts with the Janmadhyasya. So Janmadhyasya Thonvayaditaratas Charteshu Abhigyaswarat Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Suraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trishargo Mrisha Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kohakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So this is the first sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, and that starts with the Vedanta Sutra, and then it is like it's a powerful this one saying that this is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means the final words of the Vedas, and this Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary on the final words of the Vedas. Otherwise, a Purana, for that matter, it would not be so scholarly. It would not be so amazingly written, and this is a marked difference that is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And sometimes it is also called Vidya Bhagavatavadi. That means a person's education is complete if he has studied Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the pinnacle of all the education, all the knowledge that can be available in the entire creation. No, that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not just some sentimental glorification of the of the Supreme Lord. It is quite scientific, and it is quite logical, and it is quite the best amongst every field of this one. If you take logic, it is the best. If you take science, it is the best. If you take the glorification of the Lord, it is the best. In every way, it is the best, because it is describing the best possible personality, the Supreme Lord. In fact, when Lord Krishna were to appear in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, we will see that all the celestial planets, all the stars, they actually rearranged themselves to their best of the positions, right? In the same way, this Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana, which is describing about the Supreme Lord, and all the different limbs of a Purana, like poetry, it adjusted itself to the best of the poetry. And even now, if you consult with the scholars, you'll get to know that Bhagavatam is the best of the poetry. Like there is no other better composition of poetry that is there in the whole creation, right? This Bhagavatam is the best of the poetry. Bhagavatam is the best of its logics. It gives Nyaya also to its best. Jnana, best of the Jnana, and best of it in the devotional, this one. So even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts that. He says that, what is that? Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanaya Staddama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Varkena Va Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Premappu Mato Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatradara Naparaha. So there is nothing better than these devotional conclusions. And one of the conclusions that are given is that Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. This is the spotless Pramana. This is the spotless pinnacle of all Pramanas, all what you can say, like knowledge, that is available. So in every way, Srimad Bhagavatam is the best of all the literatures, right? So, and we are all quite fortunate to spend this time in the afternoon, hearing to the Srimad Bhagavatam and relishing the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's really a great fortune for all of us. We are able to read this wonderful scripture, right? So let's get into this purport. The statement made by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist, who's beyond the jurisdiction of regulations and restrictions, mainly take the task of hearing about, glorifying the personality, hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, is verified by his personal example. So, Sukadeva Goswami himself learned the Bhagavatam from his father. Sukadeva Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord, and he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Vaipayana Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology, I suppose, are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical practitioner simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of a learned professor. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from the very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons of Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instructions of another great soul, Sri Narad Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata, right? So the book Bhagavatam has to be studied from a person Bhagavatam. So, that is the way of studying. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on, hey, somebody has got unmuted. So please take care that your mics are muted all the time. Probably I can allow participants. Okay, I disabled it. Okay, so now we see that Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, entourage, and variegatedness of Supreme Person, and it is spoken by incarnation of personality of Godhead, Srila Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is also an incarnation of Lord Krishna. His main mission was to put all the topics, all the spiritual topics in writing. So that's the primary purpose for which Srila Vyasadeva incarnated. Right? So pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidents are um, mentioned in this great literature because they are related to Krishna. No, so Bhagavatam means something in relation to Krishna. Bhagavan means the Supreme Lord, and Bhagavatam means like something in relation to the Supreme Lord. His leelas, his name, his devotees, and his activities of his devotees. All these things are considered to be Bhagavatam, right? So Vasudev's son is Lord Krishna. He is called as Vasudev, and Bhagavan's connected thing is called Bhagavatam, right? So this is the way of deriving the deriving the names from its father or from its origin, right? So that's the way like Sanskrit works. And okay, where we left. Okay, pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees. Like Lord is not alone. Lord is with his pure devotees, and no description about the pure devotees are also Bhagavatam. And consequently, historical incidents mentioned in this great literature because they're related to Krishna. So all the histories that are there, they are related to Krishna, right? So if we see um, all the devotional scriptures, they all relate. They all talk about the history of this world, right? So Purana means like history of the world, and this history of the world, if you carefully notice, what do our Vedic people know to like they used to take so many things are happening, like what will they note it down for the future generation to be the history of the world? It is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada himself mentions in one of the purports, he says that the history of the world is replete with the activities of the Supreme Lord or the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, right? So even when the black and white movies came in and the initial drama and things like that, they were all completely on Mahabharata, Ramayana, and these various things. And we can see that people had given so much of importance for these leelas of the Lord. They preserved it so much. None of the other things, you don't know like what kind of architecture or what kind of other scientific advancements were there at that point in time, right? So we don't have exclusive books on that. But then Ramayana, in Treta Yuga, it happened. And it's like thousands and lakhs of years have passed, but still Ramayana is sung even today, right? So that's the greatness, that's a glory of this particular thing, of the histories of the world. It's all replete with the narrations of the Lord. And now we are also making histories. Now we are making histories of how different invaders came and how these people ruled the country, and those people ruled the country, and what all obnoxious things that they did, and nothing in connection to the Lord. And now you see like the histories are not having any value. People are not actually interested in those histories, and over a period of time history books have to be changed and updated. So but you see like Rama and Mahabharata, they have stood on their own right, for millions of years, lakhs and lakhs of years. This is the glory of this one. The life of any literature is if the Lord is present. We are living in this body. Why we are living in this body? Because the life is there, the soul is there, and the soul is there because of the super soul is there. So if we remove the Supreme Lord from anything, immediately it becomes dead, it becomes stale. It cannot give us the same pleasure as we were getting for a long period of time. So these literatures which are centered around the Supreme Lord, they are so fresh in them. Even now, after millions and millions of years, like we are discussing about these things, and it is so relishable, it is so tasty. So this never becomes stale. The topics of the Supreme Lord never become stale, because the Lord is the activating factor. Lord is the taste giving factor. Lord is the one who's preservative, who's there. So, and when till the time he is there, the topics will become very, very relishable and tasty for everyone, for every generation to come. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representative of the Lord, because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord, that is Vyasadeva, about the activities of the Lord. No, so this is even more condensed than Bhagavad Gita. And as stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras or the Vedanta Sutras that we had just discussed about, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwapara Adav, no, or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, is in this context means just prior to the beginning of the Kali Yuga. No. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree. No, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. So, like the root of this one, or the ending, no, that is called as the beginning. No, over here, in that way, he's giving a analogy. No. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as the beginning. No, so that's the just the analogy's explanation of it. Okay, text 9. Parinishto pi nirgunya uttama shloka leelaya grihita chetha rajarshe akyanam yad aditavan. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. So here we see this, that thing which I mentioned about Shukadeva Goswami, he is telling the same thing. Now it's going to come in a little more detail, this whole pastime. So the whole scene, I just want to remind once, the whole scene is that Maharaj Parikshit is, he's fasting until death, and then just because he's cursed to die in the 7 days, so he thought, anyways, what's the point in maintaining all this worldly connections and things like that? Anyway, I'm going to die in 7 days. Let me just fully focus on something important. And Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukadeva Goswami, what is that most important thing to be heard of? When my life is going to end in just few days. So then Shukadeva Goswami is telling that we should smartavya kirtitavyasya, and things like that. So he's talking about Hare Krishna. I hope I'm audible to people. Am I audible? So you can respond in the chat box if I'm audible. Okay.
Audible, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, fine. So it's this whole pastime is going to come in elaboration now. Okay, the absolute truth is realized at the first instance as the impersonal Brahman by philosophical speculation, and later as the super soul by further progress of transcendental knowledge. But if by the grace of the Lord, an impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is also converted into a transcendental devotee of the personality of Godhead. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust the idea of the personality of absolute truth. And therefore, the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by less intelligent impersonalists. But reasons and arguments, together with transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth, help even the staunch impersonalists to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. A person like Sukadeva Goswami cannot be attracted by any mundane activity, but when such a devotee is convinced by a superior method, he is certainly attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord. The Lord is transcendental, as are his activities. He is neither inactive nor impersonal. Right? So this is purport, and let's see the next sloka. Tadaham the abhidashyami maha paurushikho bhavan yasya shraddha tatham ashu shan mukunde matishati. Okay. So translation is, that very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. It's so easy. The process of devotional service is so easy that we just simply have to give the oral reception to Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So purport, Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Pantha. So there are two panthas are there, two paths are there. That is called Aroha Pantha and Avaroha Pantha. Aroha Pantha means like ascending process of trying to understand what are the things around me. Okay, there is matter, and trying to study this world, and then what is there beyond this world, and things like that. That's kind of explorative kind of understanding. That is called Aroha Pantha. And Avaroha Pantha means to understand about the Lord from the Lord, or an experienced devotee. No, to hear from a higher authority is called Avaroha Pantha. Like, no, to get it from the Guru Parampara, right? So that's called Avaroha Pantha. So here it's mentioned the Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Pantha. It is not experimental knowledge. It is receiving, no, or the Prabhupada himself is mentioning here, or the process of receiving the transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplic succession. No, that's the way of getting this knowledge. And then for advancement of material knowledge, there is a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of the spiritual master. So this is, we are reading it from the Amazon Kindle, and we see that this has been highlighted by so many people. 37 highlights are there in the statement. So it's one of the good things that I purchase these books from the Amazon, and then I read it from there. So I get to know other highlights, what people have done. So here we can take note of this. For advancement of material knowledge, there is need of personal ability and researching aptitude. If you don't have your personal capacity, then you cannot advance in material knowledge. But then in the spiritual knowledge, but in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of spiritual master, right? So it's a very, very powerful statement. If we can just depend on the mercy of spiritual master, so we can achieve the highest perfection. We can achieve the highest perfection. Let's continue. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science. So it is mentioned, Yashya deve para bhaktir tata deve yatha deve tata guru tashyate katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanah. So that means, for a person who has unflinching faith both in the Lord and the spiritual master, all the spiritual knowledge, Tasheva katita hi artha prakashante mahatmana. All the spiritual knowledge will become manifest in his heart, automatically, right? So that's the most amazing thing, which is there. So all the spiritual knowledge will be manifest in his heart. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feat, whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple, as if surcharged him with an electrical current. No, this is like Prabhupada is talking about Vivekananda's initiation, right? So like Ramakrishna, he touches the body of Vivekananda, and then they get a current, and then things like that. So that's not a bona fide way of receiving the knowledge. That's not a proper way of receiving the knowledge. So Prabhupada is condemning that particular this one. He's saying the bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and a service attitude. The idea is that both the spiritual master and disciple must be bona fide. In this case, the spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami is ready to recite exactly what he has learned from his great father Vyasadeva, and the disciple Maharaj Parikshit is great devotee of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual, right? So Shraddha Shabde Vishwasha Kari Sudrida Nishchay. What is the next line? Sudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahaya. So that means No, a person, a sincere devotee of the Lord, means he will have that much of faith that simply by performing Krishna Bhakti, no, everything that is necessary to be done is done. No, that's the faith that a person has. No, a devotee of the Lord has, right? The teachings is imparted by Lord himself in the pages of Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that the Lord Sri Krishna is everything. No, Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, right? And that to surrender unto him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious man. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, no, by training in Bhagavad Gita, no, a person becomes eligible to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Bhagavad Gita, no, like gets into Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and things like that, and analyzes all those things, and then finally it gives a person saying that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, and then a person who is convinced that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, for him it is Srimad Bhagavatam. No, like he can actually take on to the sessions of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee like Shukadeva Goswami is sure to attain salvation at the end, as Maharaj Parikshit did. The professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the pseudo devotee whose faith is based on weak hearing are different from Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Srila Vyasadeva explained Srimad Bhagavatam unto Shukadeva Goswami from the very beginning of Janmadesha verse, and so Shukadeva Goswami also explained it to the king. Lord Krishna is described as Mahapurusha in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. Vande Mahapurushate Charanaramindam. No, in his devotional feature as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself in his devotional attitude, descended to the earth to bestow special favors upon the fallen souls of the age of Kali. There are two verses particularly suitable to offer as prayers to this Mahapurusha feature of the Lord. So this is Deyam Sada Paribhava Nam Abhishtadoham Tirthaspatam Shiva Virinchi Nutam Sharanyam Vrityartiham Pranatapala Bhavabdipotham Vande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam Taktva Sudushta Jaya Subhe Surep Sita Raja Lakshmim Dharmishta Arya Vachasa Yad Agad Aranyam Maya Mrigam Daita Es Pitham okay Anvadha Vad Vande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam. In other words, no, Purusha means the enjoyer, and Mahapurusha means the supreme enjoyer or the supreme personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. One who deserves to approach the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is called Mahapaurushika. No, a person who's no, capable of approaching the Supreme Lord, right? Deserves to approach the Supreme Lord. Anyone who hears Srimad Bhagavatam attentively from its bona fide reciter is sure to become a sincere devotee of the Lord who is able to award liberation. No, Mukunda. No, he's like the Lord is called Mukunda. So there was none so attentive as Maharaj Parikshit in the matter of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was none so qualified as Shukadeva Goswami to recite the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, anyone who follow in the footsteps of either the ideal reciter or the ideal hearer, Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit respectively, will undoubtedly attain salvation like them. Salvation means liberation or getting back to the supreme spiritual planet of Vaikuntha Dhama. Maharaj Parikshit attained salvation by hearing only, and Sukadeva Goswami attained salvation only by reciting. Recitation and hearing are two processes out of 9 devotional activities, and by strenuously following the principles, either in all or by parts, one can attain the absolute plane. So here we see Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dashyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So iti pumsarpitham bhakti. It is like, okay. So this is like these 9 are the Bhaktis chain Nava Lakshana. So like this is like 9 different aspects of bhakti, and the primary of the first two are Shravanam, that is to hear, and Kirtanam, that is to speak about the Lord. So these two things are very, very powerful and potent processes, and that can actually take a person to the highest perfection. So it's just so easy that we can just connect to the Srimad Bhagavatam session, and then just by hearing these words uttered by Shukadev Goswami and later commented by Srila Prabhupada, it is so powerful that it can actually offer us liberation. It's so powerful. So it's so easy. Kali Yuga, everything is made easy. So the complete text of Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with Janma Dasya verse up to the last one in the 12th canto, was spoken by Shukadev Goswami for the attainment of salvation by Maharaj Parikshit. In the Padma Puran, it is mentioned that Gautama Muni advised Maharaj Ambarish to hear regularly Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Shukadeva Goswami. And herein it is confirmed that Maharaj Ambarish heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning to end as it was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. One who is actually interested in Bhagavatam, therefore, must not play with it by reading or hearing a portion from here or portion from there. One must follow in the footsteps of great kings like Maharaj Ambarish or Maharaj Parikshit and hear it from bona fide representative of Sukadeva Goswami. And so it's just bringing in the seriousness of Srimad Bhagavatam here. Okay, so we have exhausted our time. It's 3 o'clock. So anybody has any doubts, they can personally message me. I can respond to it. So thank you very much for your sincere oral reception of this very wonderful scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's end here. So I have recorded it, and let's see. I'm thinking to put it on the drive or in the YouTube or somewhere. So we will make some arrangement. Hare Krishna. Other questions you can ask in the WhatsApp, so I can respond there. It's already 3, so we will stick on to the time 2 to 3. Hare Krishna.